What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Turn the Jets podcast. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. TOJ Pod, TOJ Talks, all 32. Wednesday morning here, Paul Kilgallen joining me. Mets are in first place in baseball. He's happy. The Yankees woke up. I'm a little bit happier. I got some Knicks playoff basketball, a lot going on, but also a little bit of a quiet period now post-draft, rookie minicamp here in a couple days. Paul, how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. The Braves sucking only lasted about a month, so I'm a little sad that that's over already. But other than that, I'm good. I was telling you before we hopped on, my local 7-Eleven somehow got their hands on some Swedish Zins. The label is all in Swedish, and it's not even 11 a.m. and I am buzzing out of my skull here. So Zin, sponsor me.
Sponsor the pod. Kind of in that quiet period, as I mentioned now, where we start to transition to, we'll get some mini camp OTA stuff over the next, about 5 weeks ish, before the guys, kind of head back home for about 5 to 6 weeks before, camp. And, we'll get some post June 1, the flurry of stuff. We got the George Pickens trade this morning, which I want to touch on the absurdity that people thought the Jets were going to trade for George Pickens. But where are you kind of at, I guess, now you've had a chance, week and a half to kind of sit on the draft, offseason as a whole. I know Joe and Connor touched on this, so I want to kind of extrapolate a little bit of underwhelming offseason in some ways, but also, Jason was on the pod, Jason Fitzgerald was on the pod, I think he was on Joe and Connor's pod about 6 weeks ago, and he's like, this is not going to be some insane offseason, and I think that's by design. How are you kind of feeling now in this a little bit of a quiet period we're about to enter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little just middle of the road, right? Which, if we go back to like the very beginning of the offseason, that's what they told you they were going to do. They told you that, teams weren't made in the offseason. This was going to be a process and we're going to watch tape on everybody and blah, 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 blah. And they followed through with just that. So if nothing else, you can't really hate on this regime for communicating about what their plan is and then going out and executing the plan and not really doing a whole lot of surprising you along the way, right? They took a guy in the first round of the draft that was probably mocked to them. And I don't know, I'm throwing out a random number here, but probably over 50% of the mock drafts had Membu going to the Jets. There weren't any necessarily hugely splashy free agents or anything like that. Like you said, the problems are still the problems. The wide receiving crew is thin. It is. You're a little worried about linebacker. You're not as worried about safety as you were before. But it's not like they went out and signed some top tier, top of the market free agent at safety either. They just got a bunch of bodies in there, and we think that whatever the Jenga or the Rubik's Cube, as Joe called it, looks like, that there's probably a solution there. You didn't necessarily solve defensive tackle, so that's still one that's bugging people. So I think, wide receiver, defensive tackle, and linebacker to some extent are still areas that the team needs to improve. But also, do you need to do all that in year one? I'm not sure. Let's see what's on the roster. Let's see what Leonard Taylor can give you. Let's see if Sherwood can really step up without CJ Mosley even on the roster at this point. And is it what we suspect at wide receiver? And they just like Josh Reynolds and, God forbid, Adam Lazard too, and what they can contribute in the running game. So I don't know, man. I'm feeling okay. Again, I keep coming back to, we're going to see the value of good coaching. Like that's where my brain keeps resetting to every time I start to worry about any part of the roster. I'm like, this roster with Aaron Glenn is probably better than a better roster with Robert Saleh. And so let's just see where that goes.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, and I kind of wanted to walk through each position group and kind of play the hypothetical game and just get your take on it, because I got a lot of shit for saying I think the Jets secondary, people in the league texting me like, you're crazy. Where are they worse than they were last year? I guess if you want to say outside corner next to DJ Reed, sure, DJ Reed versus what I think Azareye'h Thomas could be, even in year one. DJ Reed wasn't good last year by his standards, and was a bit of a problem at points. By all accounts, a good dude and the whole thing, but I don't think he was like some special player last year. Sauce was not himself for the first half of the year. I think he started to get going as the year went on, and he ended up having a pretty solid year. He's still like a top 12-ish corner last year. The years prior, he was arguably the best corner and best player on the team. Michael Carter barely played last year, and when he did play, he was playing extremely limited snaps. That was a huge problem. The safety play was terrible last year. And I think Cisco, even in, look, last year was not good for him, but neither was Brandon Stevens. And both guys, if they played the way they were in 22 and 23, are at least comparable. I think Cisco's a better player than what Whitehead and Chuck Clark were. And by all accounts, Tony Adams should at least be better than he was a year prior if he's the starter. If he's not the starter and it's Brandon Stevens or Malachi Moore, like, they're probably an upgrade, especially from a tackling perspective. CJ Mosley didn't play last year, so Quincy Williams is being back of the baseball card. And Jamie Sherwood, in theory, is his first full year as a starter. Really, second should be better, right? Like a younger player on an ascending track. So, defensive line, Jermaine being back, just in principle, has to be better than what Son Reddick and Michael Clemens offer you on a down-by-down basis. Will McDonald, entering where a pass rusher starts for it to really click in year 3, 4, and 5. Quinnen wasn't good Quinnen last year. He was good, but he wasn't like all pro level. And again, anytime we don't have to get Solomon Thomas reps at 3 tech, like, we'll be okay. So the point being, the defense in principle, just on talent alone, should be is a better group than last year. Now, if you add in better coaching and communication, should be a much better group. And they got the injury bug on defense last year. So what am I missing just starting on defense? What am I missing that they're like not going to be good on defense? They should be a top 10 unit comfortably. I'm not sure what I'm missing here. Like, even yes, do they need one more run stuffer to make you feel better? 100% I get it. Could they use a third linebacker we know about? Sure. Could they use a 9th safety that you feel better about by the name on the back of their jersey as opposed to just what actually is on tape? Sure, but they're deep at corner at all 3 spots with top end really legit talent. Safety's deep at a minimum. Linebackers got Pro Bowl and all pro level guys. Defensive line has 3 Pro Bowl level players. I don't, and a defensive head coach and a DC that everyone loves. So I don't know, what am I missing here? Like, am I just being glass half full, Jets glasses on? I'm confused.
No, I think what you're missing is that this franchise
is supposed to be a fucking boomer doom guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of it's a result of a 15-year playoff drought, for lack of a better word. Like, people want every issue to be, because like we've tried so many things at this point that it's natural for a fan base to see any weakness and be like, well, we can't have any weaknesses because we've tried everything and nothing has worked. So we need to be a perfect team in order to make the playoffs. Once football starts being played and people get a feel for what the defense is and who they are and how they play, I think a lot of that negativity will dissipate a little bit. And again, I'm not telling people how to fan. Like, I get it, right? Like, you see a weakness and you want it addressed and you're upset that it wasn't addressed. Fine. But it's also, I think, worth it to zoom out and look at the big picture like you just did, going around the whole, starting 11 on the defensive side of the ball and say, hey, we actually have a lot of good stuff to work with here. And it's really not like doom. It's not the end of the world here. Like, they can work around a potential weakness up the middle with the running game and see if they can use some of their other strengths to mask it a little bit. And by the way, if you can figure out a way to really lock down in pass coverage, you're helping your offense by keeping games a little bit lower scoring. Now, is that a sexy brand of football that everybody wants to see? No. Is it something we're all used to? Yeah. So like you said, like, not a lot has really changed in terms of the personnel and what we can offer on defense. So I don't know, man. I think it's one of those things that's a symptom of, number one, a fan base that hasn't seen the playoffs in a very long time and is prone to being nervous about the weaknesses. And number two, football hasn't been played in 3 months, and that's probably contributing to this too, right? We have nothing else to worry about, nothing else to talk about.
No, I get it. And again, I just keep going back to that 2022 season where any semblance of decent quarterback play against the Patriots in either game, amongst other games, but like those 2 games in specific, and that team was in the playoffs, and like, we're not talking about a drought. We're saying, hey, the Rodgers stuff was so disappointing. You're kind of just in a little bit more patient of a state. The reason I bring up 2022 is I felt like the offense, while it wasn't good, like, at least you were like, oh, cool, we have Garrett and Brees. That was like the whole year was like Garrett and Brees and this defense, right? That was what we kept coming back to. Like, they're great on special teams, they're great on defense, and then boom, every game you were hoping Garrett and Brees could break one. Justin Fields is objectively, even like the bad version of Justin Fields, is a lot better than what Zach Wilson was. So there's that. similar, you hope, kind of type of offensive coordinator, the younger guy coming from a good, background that is going to do some creative different things. The tight end room's still not great, and I think that got misconstrued as well. I never said it was great, but I don't think it's like the worst room in the league. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just betting on Mason Taylor being, hey, a league average guy in year one. I'm not thinking he's going to be some superstar. Maybe he will be, but more likely he's just a league average player that, Jeremy Ruckert is your third tight end, and maybe he's bad. I don't know. I don't think Ruckert's actually as bad as he was last year, but he's probably never going to be the guy that I think everyone was excited for when he got drafted. Still a top 100 pick, which is still kind of crazy to think about. And again, I'm not saying Stone Smart's like the next coming of Antonio Gates, but could he give you 27 catches for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns in the red zone? And you're like, fine. Like, it's, again, better, a lot better than Kenny Yeboah. So I'm not saying that room's great, but the offensive line should be awesome, right? And the running back room's really damn good. And Garrett Wilson's really damn good. And like, I don't know. I don't think this offense is going to be great by any means. But I think there's ways you can manipulate this offense to be creative and get the best out of some of those really good players they have. I'd love for them to add 7 more receivers and just say, fuck it, we're going into camp with 14 guys at receiver and like let the best 5 win. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe they'll add a Gabe Davis. Sure. Like, can't hurt. Maybe you go and you add Keenan Allen in June and you go, hey, like, we're just going to bet on it. Can you give us 10 games? Something like that. Like, again, that's not exciting. I get it. Trade for Dontavius Wicks. Like, maybe. But Alec Pierce, sure. Again, like, I'm down to take both, shots here. But I just am, Paul, I guess I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, that team, I think we're in the mindset we just had Devontae and Garrett, right? And like, we're all excited about all these weapons. Well, the meat and the fat of this team was terrible. So the Jets have kind of reversed course. But yeah, I guess I kind of talk myself in circles in a little ways, but I don't think this offense is going to be prolific or good, really, even. But can they not be league average? And like, we have the same conversation we had going into 23 where Garrett and Brees will do special stuff. If we block up front, if their offensive line's good, I'm sorry, but like Josh Reynolds could give you 45 catches, no? And like 550 yards. And Mason Taylor could give you 40 for 400. And Garrett gives you a 1,400-yard season. You're kind of fine. Like, you're probably an 8 or 9 win team, which is all kind of where I feel like we're all going to end up settling up anyways.
So again, I think for a couple years now, we as fans have all been asking for the guy that can draw attention away from Garrett Wilson. And we got it last year. And it didn't work because he also drew catches away. And honestly, that was a extenuating circumstance because we also had a quarterback who was funneling catches that way rather than looking for the open man. And so that caused problems in and of itself. But when are we going to start saying Garrett Wilson doesn't need coverage drawn away from him? He's that good, right? And like, we don't worry about, like, when people were talking about the T. Higgins situation in Cincinnati, they weren't saying, oh my God, Jamar Chase isn't going to be as good because he loses T. Higgins drawing coverage away from him. It was just that T. Higgins was another weapon there, right? And so, like, when are we just going to say Garrett Wilson's good? He's a stud. We don't need to have Devontae Adams across from him to draw away coverage. Like, he'll just be good and he'll make plays. And what he really needs is a supporting cast around him, like Josh Reynolds, who has played that role his entire career, who can do a lot of the dirty work really well. And is he going to draw double teams? No. But is he going to be a great supporting cast guy? Absolutely. Right. And so I would stop thinking about worrying about why they don't have that other big marquee name across from Garrett Wilson, because it's not happening. It's not coming this year, right? There's nobody in free agency left that's going to do that. There's nobody that's available by trade that's going to do that. Even Wicks, right? Like, if they got him, he's not drawing coverage away. That's just another body at wide receiver, right? So if you're going to do that, why not go into free agency? And I know you spoke a little bit on a pod last week about not being interested in Keenan Allen because what's he bringing other than taking catches away? I think, just to play devil's advocate on that, like, obviously you don't want to pay him $20 million like the Bears did, but if you can get him at somewhere near
Joe Douglas, by the way, who wanted to do the same thing. Let's just remember that.
Right. But if you can get him somewhere lower down near like the vet minimum, and you're probably not going to get him that cheap, but like, he's just a guy that can be sure-handed over the middle and just catch balls when you need balls caught, right? He's not going to demand it. He's not going to draw it away from Garrett, but like just catch balls when you need balls caught. I mean, look, Allen Robinson hasn't been good in several years. And so I'm not sure you can count on him for anything, but he was in Detroit last year. He made the same amount of money last year that Malik Taylor made with the Jets. So that's another guy that you could just say, hey, look, he's not going to get a ton of snaps every game, but when we need a ball caught, we know that he can catch the ball, and he's a big dude that can get some possession. And the other names out there, nothing's really exciting. It's like Chris Conley, Jamison Crowder are like kind of older vets that could contribute. Tyler Boyd is a guy that we all talked about a few years ago that we really wanted. He's still out there. Not interested in Amari Cooper. I'm not interested in Gabe Davis. Not interested in Nelson Aguilar, but a little more willing with Aguilar than I am with the other two. DJ Shark really does nothing for me. So like Gunnar Olszewski, like that's a gadget player. Maybe you can use him in punt returns.
Pushing on punt waiting to happen.
So like that big name isn't coming, but can they do something to bolster the room? Probably, but will they? I'm not sure, because to get back to your point, like I think they can be fine as constructed. Are they going to be a top 10, 15 offense? I don't know, man. But like, can they be fine? Because they don't need that marquee name. They just need the supporting cast around Garrett and Brees. And right now they have that. And so like, let's see what these guys can do. And, you know, Alan Lazard is still the big, like the hanging Chad that we need addressed. Like, we just need to know, like, is he a part of this or not? Like, is he going to the Steelers or not? Is Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers or not? It's not even our problem anymore, but it's still kind of hanging over us because Alan Lazard is still on this roster. I will say that it's okay to have the Aaron Rodgers buzz hang around the team a little bit longer, because it means nobody's talking about Justin Fields, which I like, right? Like, let him just fly under the radar and do whatever. But like, to get back, that was a really long-winded answer, but to get back, like, no, I don't think there's any reason why this offense can't be good enough to win games when you couple it with the defense.
Yeah, I just, again, like, I'm not trying to sit here and sell you that this offense is going to be special, because I do think they need another weapon or two. But also, again, like, I don't think Garrett had the season last year that he wanted. I don't think Brees was, like, those guys are playing at the peak of their level. I think that if everyone else can play their role, the Jets have a chance to be at least a competent offense, right? Like, if Josh Reynolds is slotted as your number 4 target share, the Lions just went through that, and Josh Reynolds was that for them because their running game was awesome, because Amon-Ra St. Brown was open all the damn time. They found creative ways to get him. He was like, I'm just going to get open and run curl routes and flat routes for like between 5 and 15 yards, and except for the NFC title game, like, I'm going to catch the football. And that's just really going to be my job, and it's not going to do anything else. I'm going to block really well. I don't know. I guess I'm in the point where if George Pickens gets traded this morning, of course, my dog's like, I don't even know what he's doing right now. But George Pickens gets traded this morning, the instant reaction, and I get it, is why didn't we do that deal? Paul, I'll set you up for this and I'll finish here. Why would the Jets have even been involved in a George Pickens situation? I understand they need a number 2 receiver. I can't think of a less Aaron Glenn move than trading for George Pickens. Like, that just to me seems...
Yeah, I mean, my immediate gut reaction is to say, why would they be involved in that deal, right? Other than they need a number 2 receiver. But like, George Pickens, it's not like, number one, it's not like he had some crazy connection with Justin Fields last year. Was he pissed when Russell Wilson came in? Yeah, but that's really the only connective tissue that you can draw there. To your point, it doesn't mesh with what's going on with the team. If you think of bringing in a known volatile wide receiver into that room that is led by Garrett Wilson, and you have a guy who's been complaining about balls his entire career, who's only been in the league for like 3 years, and like, has he made some really nice contested circus catches? Yes. Has he posted seasons where you're like, oh my God, George Pickens is a top flight wide receiver? No. So why are you bringing that problem in to a room that doesn't need it, to a team that doesn't need it, to a team that's coming off a lot of turmoil and just needs a little bit of stability? It just really doesn't make sense at all, other than, again, it's just another body at wide receiver, right? It's just not worth the headache.
If you're going to give up future draft capital for somebody, and somebody that you want to see here being here long term, and George Pickens needs an extension, like, if Garrett Wilson was already locked up and the Jets were in a window where, hey, 9 wins is the floor, and like, we're going to go for it. Yeah, sure. Like, you're in the Cowboys, you kind of have to do this. Like, it makes sense. They need help. Similar, honestly, wide receiver room where you don't really love anybody else outside of the star guy. I get it. I just think for the Jets, like the Jets giving up a future 3 right now doesn't really make a ton of sense unless it's for a guy that you're like, hey, he's going to be here the next he's under team control for 2.5, 3 years, and we feel really good about it, and we've paid Garrett, and like this is going to take us over the top. I don't know. I don't didn't love the idea of that. Paul, last two things here, and again, a lot of exciting news around the live show upcoming, the next couple of days or weeks or so here. One move you'd like to see the Jets make? You can only make one, probably post June 1. Is there one move for you that you would be like, all right, that's satisfied the craving a little bit of some type of, news dump of Jet stuff, but it could be realistic, not realistic, whatever it may be. Is there one name that for you that you're like, hey, this happens, I'd feel pretty decent, about where things are?
Man, that's a tough one. Geez, I mean, I think I really still would like them to add a fat defensive tackle. They had the undrafted guy. That's fine. They have Leonard Williams, who was an undrafted guy last year. Could you go get somebody like a Raekwon Davis or something like that? Could you go see if Jonathan Hankins still wants to play, right? And just like eat up some snaps in the middle. Jets have had this tendency to go after aging players on both the offensive and the defensive lines. And on the offensive line, it has almost never worked. On the defensive line, it has. You look at Al Woods, you look at Quentin Jefferson, some of the other guys they brought in over the years, like they have done enough to kind of hang around in the middle there. By the way, Quentin Jefferson is still inside. So like, why not just go and check on one of those guys? Just even if it's just a camp body and you're not sure if they're making the team, these guys are still available. They're still out there. They're still free agents. And a lot of the names on that defensive tackle available list excite me more than any of the names on the wide receivers available list. I think those two spots are the two you look at for if we're talking about one move, it's got to be defensive tackle or wide receiver. And for me, the names that are out there at defensive tackle are more intriguing. Now, that's a personnel move. What I'd also like to see, and this is not some groundbreaking thought here, is like we talked a lot about before and after the draft about how scout contracts end right after the draft, right? Like I think the Jets fans would benefit a lot from hearing about the carnage. Like they want to know who's getting fired and they want to know who's getting brought in. I think that's news that typically doesn't get to the fan level. But in this case, I think it would be helpful for fans to hear about who's leaving and who's coming. So one personnel move and one front office move.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave for you guys the front office side of things. You guys have hit that, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Not saying you're wrong. I'm gonna leave it alone. Two names that stand out are really three names. Zadarius Smith, who has familiarity with Glenn. My only worry with Zadarius Smith is it feels like everywhere he goes, he's like hated 6 weeks in. So I don't know if that's the right play, but maybe. Two names that come to mind at edge, because I think there actually is a few edge guys that could contribute for the Jets potentially. Maybe it's just their third edge, and you feel decent about that. Stay away from Von Miller. Like I'm good there. Matt Judon, he's out there. He's 33. And Matt Judon in like a third edge rusher role, and that can play all three downs. To me, and like free up Will McDonald sometimes to be like a guy that can conserve energy for later rounds or early on. Can he just play a ton of snaps while Jermaine works back? I don't know if Matt Judon would have any interest in playing for the Jets. He's over 30, so I doubt the Jets even go that route. But he still had 5.5 sacks last year. 2 years ago was like really good, and was due a huge extension like 12 months ago. It didn't work out. It was tumultuous. He had the shoulder he was coming back from, but like 15.5 sacks 2 years ago is no joke. He's probably much more cooked than he is not, but so is Zadarius Smith. Like that, one of those, Preston Smith, like one of those guys that could come in and just be a really legit third edge rusher. And then you could bump now the Baron Clemens thing to be like your fourth guy. And you feel like less shitty about Tyler Barron or Michael Clemens being your fourth guy as opposed to your, you know what I mean? Like if they're
what about Carl Lawson round 2?
yeah, like just something like just something that you could feel like, hey, Jermaine can take his time a little bit coming back, and on top of that, can they teach Will McDonald that third move that makes him like a 15 sack a year guy? Can they give Jermaine one more move to make him a double digit sack guy, whatever it may be? Again, I have no idea if Judon or Smith would have any interest, if the Jets would even go that route based on the way they've approached free agency. But and again, I know you mentioned saying no to Gabe Davis. Depends what Gabe Davis wants. If Gabe Davis is looking for 1 year, $3 million deal, sure. Like, bring him into camp and cut him if he sucks. Like, I'm all good with throwing ideas at it. It doesn't mean they're all going to work, but similar to their approach with D tackle, it feels like, hey, we signed 19 guys. Can 2 of them make the roster and be decent next to Quinn and Leonard Taylor? Can those guys be like the 2, kind of guys that, take up double teams, and then we free up Q, or we free up, Leonard Taylor in pass situations. So kind of just the state of the franchise episode, where we're at, where people kind of sitting on, middle to beginning of May. A lot of exciting stuff on the feed. Pretty normal. Paul, the other guys, flagship pod with Joe and Connor, and War Room as well. There'll be, Buck the Trend. I'll be back on Saturday. Lots to unpack. Paul, appreciate hopping on, and we'll talk to you guys later this week.
Thanks, Ben.